But in a real fight time with 8-ounce gloves on, bye. That's with 16 ounces on headgear. With 8 ounces on, no headgear, bro. Bye, bro. Like, Tank. Like, I had that little nigga with me at 14, 13, bro. And he sparred in About Billion shirt.
Gervonta?
Yeah.
They asked Adrien after the fight, do you think you're gonna get credit for the way you fought Pacquiao? He said, fuck credit, I got cash.
When Gervonta Tank Davis was preparing for his highly anticipated showdown against Lamont Roach, one familiar face was missing from his training camp, Adrien Broner. The absence of Broner, who has long been one of Tank's closest friends and occasional training partners, raised eyebrows. Why wasn't he there? And more importantly, did it make a difference in Tank's performance?
Like right now, me and Tank, like, it's weird because he loved me to death. He know I love him to death. But we don't talk every day how we used to. Nigga, it used to be a time where you ain't see me without Tank, or you ain't see Tank without me. But what happened was, well, I think
Broner and Tank have always had a complex but undeniable bond. The two have often referred to each other as brothers, and despite their turbulent careers, they've always seemed to push each other when it mattered. Broner was a vocal supporter of Tank, leading up to his fight with Frank Martin, a match that Davis won in dominant fashion by knockout. But for the Roach fight, Broner was nowhere to be found. Some speculate that Broner's own career struggles played a role in his absence. Coming off an embarrassing loss to Blair Cobbs, Broner has been dealing with his own battles, both in and out of the ring. Was he too focused on trying to salvage his own career to show up for Tank? Or was there something deeper, a falling out between the two?
what happened was, he just like, damn, bro. I feel like he look up to me so much, it's like, I let him down. Cause he know, cause he's somebody that really know like what I can do and how good I am. And it's like,
Then there's the bad luck theory. Some fans believe Broner's absence brought bad energy to Tank's camp. The last time Broner was around, Davis delivered one of his most impressive performances. This time, without Broner in his corner, Tank looked sluggish, uninspired, and far from the dominant force fans were used to seeing. Whether or not Broner's presence would have changed the outcome is impossible to say. But one thing is clear. This version of Tank Davis was not the same fighter who walked through Frank Martin. And Broner himself seems to think he knows why. Adrien Broner didn't hold back when talking about Tank's recent struggles. In fact, he dropped a bombshell statement that shook the boxing world. Tank Davis is losing his edge. It's a claim that would have been unthinkable just a year ago. Tank was on top of the world, an undefeated superstar with an aura of invincibility. But Broner sees things differently. He believes Tank is tired, worn down, no longer the same hungry fighter who once demolished opponents with ease. And the biggest red flag? Retirement talk. Tank's sudden retirement announcement in December
25 is at the next year. I'm out of it.
After our second fight. You're out of it?
Yeah.
everyone off guard. At the time, many brushed it off as just another impulsive moment from the champ. But Broner? He thinks it was a real cry for help. A sign that Tank isn't just physically worn out, but mentally drained from the sport. Broner pointed to Tank's performance against Roach as evidence. He lacked his usual explosiveness, his sharpness was missing, and, perhaps most concerning of all, he seemed disengaged at times. Tank taking a knee in the 9th round? Broner believes that was a moment of mental fatigue, not just physical exhaustion. But here's the real question. Does Broner have a point, or is he just stirring the pot?
Taking a knee, and I thought it was a blinding jab. Blinding jab. Yeah, what's wrong? The ref, something's wrong. He took a knee. That's a knockdown. You get knocked.
Tank's career has been full of highlights, but he's also faced criticism for his training habits, his weight struggles, and his legal troubles. The signs of decline that Broner is pointing out, they might have been there all along, hidden behind his knockout wins. The boxing world is divided. Is Tank truly losing his edge, or is this just a bump in the road? Either way, Broner's comments have put even more pressure on Davis to prove that he's still the king of the lightweight division. Before the Roach fight, Gervonta Davis versus Frank Martin was supposed to be another showcase of Tank's greatness, and on paper it was, a knockout victory that kept his undefeated record intact. But But if you go back and watch that fight closely, were there already signs of decline? While Tank ultimately secured the KO, the early rounds weren't exactly dominant. Martin was able to land clean shots, something that wouldn't have been as common against a prime Tank. The defensive lapses, the slightly slower reactions, it wasn't glaring at the time, but now, with hindsight, it's hard to ignore. Even more concerning, Tank took more damage than usual. We're used to seeing him slip punches, counter with precision, and impose his power. Against Martin, there were moments where he seemed just a step slower. Was it overconfidence? A bad training camp? Or the first signs of wear and tear on a fighter who has been in wars? One thing is clear. The Tank that fought Martin was still dangerous, but he wasn't invincible. And if Martin had been just a little more aggressive, that fight might have looked very different. This begs the question, was Roach simply able to capitalize on the vulnerabilities that Martin exposed? If so, that means Tank's struggles weren't just one bad night. They were a growing pattern. If the Frank Martin fight was the warning shot, the Roach fight might have been the wake-up call that Tank can't ignore. For all of Tank Davis' talent, his biggest opponent has always been himself. For years there have been whispers, stories of missed weight, inconsistent training camps, and distractions outside the ring. But because Tank kept winning, those issues were never taken seriously. Now, after the Roach fight, they're impossible to ignore. Think back to his struggles with the scale. Tank has had multiple close calls with missing weight, sometimes needing extra time to cut down. And while he's never officially lost a fight because of weight issues, it raises questions about his dedication to staying in peak condition. Then there are the no-shows. Tank has a history of showing up late to fight week obligations, missing press conferences, and giving off the impression that he's not always locked in. Before, it was just seen as part of his persona. Now, it looks like a pattern of behavior that's catching up to him. And let's not forget the legal troubles. Tank's 44-day jail stint in 2023 wasn't just a headline. It was a major disruption to his training. Being behind bars, away from the gym, unable to train properly, that has an effect on a fighter. Could his struggles in the Roach fight be a delayed consequence of the time he lost? The truth is, Tank has always walked a fine line between being a superstar and being his own worst enemy. Up until now, his talent has masked those inconsistencies, but with his recent performances, they're becoming too obvious to ignore.
Success here for Roach in round 7. And yet only landing him by 3 thus far. Davis ripping that right hand, and then Roach rips a left hook to the body. Good stuff here in round. And Davis. Boom.
So, is this just a rough patch? Or are we finally seeing the long-term consequences of Tank's inconsistent discipline? One thing's for sure, if Tank doesn't make some serious changes, the decline Broner is predicting might happen sooner than anyone expected.
He counterpunched Tank.
Took off some of the steam of the punch, but still, Roach leading with right.
He took a knee.
Davis fighting on even terms here in the 11th. Both of them have landed.
The decision is a majority draw.
Boxing has always been a sport of discipline. The best fighters, the ones who make it to the top and stay there, understand that talent alone isn't enough. And right now, Gervonta Tank Davis might be learning that lesson the hard way. For years, Tank's undeniable skills and knockout power have allowed him to dominate in the ring, despite a chaotic personal life. But now, after a 44-day jail stint, ongoing legal battles, and growing distractions outside of boxing, his career is showing real cracks. Tank was sentenced to home detention in May 2023 after pleading guilty to a hit-and-run incident that left multiple people injured. But instead of completing his sentence in a controlled environment, he violated the terms and was ordered to serve 44 days in jail, a punishment that undoubtedly disrupted his training and conditioning. When he was finally released, the boxing world expected him to return stronger and more focused. Instead, he looked sluggish, inconsistent, and unmotivated in his fight against Lamont Roach. His once explosive movement was missing, his timing was off, and most shocking of all, he seemed to be gassing out late in the fight. On top of that, probation restrictions and lingering legal responsibilities are limiting his ability to train freely. These issues aren't just distractions, they're career-altering obstacles.
I could have stopped him. It's me. Definitely my fault. It's all right. You know what I mean? You live and you learn. I definitely could have.
Can Tank truly focus on being the best when his life outside the ring is in turmoil? Boxing history is filled with cautionary tales of fighters who let personal issues destroy their legacies. Is Tank heading down the same path? The boxing world was split after the final bell rang in Tank Davis versus Lamont Roach. Officially, Tank won, but was it the right decision? Some fans, analysts, and even Roach himself think otherwise. Let's break it down.
Clearly in there, man. I thought I won. I thought I did enough to get the victory over a spectacular fighter. I told y'all from the beginning, man, that I got the skills to pay the bills. I've been telling y'all that. And I'm just glad I got to show it, honestly.
Roach outworked Tank in multiple rounds, landing sharp counters and avoiding Davis's signature power punches. While Tank had his moments, including a few rounds where he clearly imposed his strength, the overall fight was much closer than expected. And here's where things get even more controversial. Roach has already announced his intention to push for an appeal. He believes the judges got it wrong, and he's not alone. Many in the boxing community, including former fighters and trainers, have questioned the scoring and officiating of the fight.
If the question is about Gervonta Davis's power, what is his power like? Is he as hard a puncher as he's made out to be? If the best name that somebody could give me of somebody that he knocked out is...
This isn't the first time a Tank Davis decision has been debated. In the past, his superstar status and marketability may have helped him in close fights. But this time, the backlash is louder than ever. If Roach's appeal gains traction, could we see the decision overturned? Or at the very least, could this lead to a rematch? If so, Tank will have to prove once and for all that he's the better fighter. But before that happens, there's one moment in the fight that still has people talking. In one of the strangest moments of his career, Tank Davis took a knee in the 9th round against Lamont Roach. And nobody, not the commentators, not the fans, not even Roach himself, fully understood why. Was it exhaustion? A tactical move? Or something else entirely? At first glance, it looked like a clear sign of fatigue. Tank, who has always been known for his endurance, appeared drained, breathing heavily, and struggling to keep up with Roach's pace. If it was purely exhaustion, then that raises a massive red flag about his conditioning.
That was on me too. That was on me for sure. Cause I ain't pick it up when I supposed to pick it up. And I could have definitely did more. Just a lot going on.
But others believe it was a strategic decision, a way to buy time, reset, and avoid getting caught in an exchange while he was off balance. If that's the case, it might have been a smart veteran move. But let's be real, we've never seen Tank do something like this before. And then there's the worst case scenario. Was Tank injured? Some fans pointed out that he seemed to be favoring his legs in the later rounds. Could this be an undisclosed injury that affected his performance? Whatever the reason, one thing is clear. Tank didn't look like himself in that fight. And if this version of Tank steps into the ring with Shakur Stevenson, things could go south fast.
Who have Shakur? What have Shakur done? What have he done in the sport? He haven't done nothing. The young one is looking more better than him.
For the Roach fight, a super fight between Gervonta Davis and Shakur Stevenson seemed inevitable. Now, it's looking more questionable than ever. Let's be honest, Tank's stock took a hit. Not only did he struggle against Roach, but he showed serious vulnerabilities. And that's exactly the kind of thing a fighter like Shakur Stevenson would exploit. Unlike Roach, Stevenson is a master technician. His defense is elite, his counterpunching is razor sharp, and his ability to control the pace of a fight is unmatched. If Tank struggled to find his rhythm against Roach, imagine what would happen against a fighter who never makes mistakes. The biggest question now is, does Tank even want this fight anymore? After his performance, some insiders believe he might start rethinking his future.
Oh, fucking Leo used to fight at 122, didn't he? That's what I'm saying. So it's like, okay, if we're evaluating his power, does he actually hit as hard as we all think he does? I'm like, okay, well, who did he knock out that says, okay, yeah, you really hit that hard? And what, Rolly, Ryan?
Stevenson is a massive challenge. And if Tank isn't fully confident, this fight could be a disaster for his legacy. Unless he makes major improvements, a fight with Shakur could be the beginning of the end. While Adrien Broner has been vocal about Tank's struggles, his own career is in shambles. Broner recently suffered a brutal loss to Blair Cobbs, proving once again that he's far removed from his prime. What makes this even more interesting? Tank was the one who convinced Broner to get back into the gym. This raises a fascinating dynamic. Broner is criticizing Tank for losing his edge, but he can't even win his own fights. Some believe Broner sees himself in Tank. Both fighters were once considered the future of boxing. Both have had run-ins with the law, and both have struggled with discipline. The difference? Tank is still young enough to turn things around. Broner's career might be a cautionary tale. If Tank doesn't fix his issues now, could he suffer the same fate? At the end of the day, one fight could change everything.
You know, and when me and Tank go at it, sometimes he'll look at Tank and say, yo, listen to him, man. I'm good. What's your thought on
Tank and Floyd going back and forth, man?
I let two grown men handle their business, but they know whose side I'm on.
A rematch with Lamont Roach might be exactly what Tank needs to prove he's still one of the best in the world. But does he want it? Here's the reality. If Tank avoids a rematch, his critics will say he's running from the truth. The only way to silence them is to get back in the ring, fix his mistakes, and dominate. And what about Broner's prediction that Tank is declining? Is he right? Right now, it's up to Tank to prove him wrong. Because if he doesn't, Broner's words might not just be gossip, they might be the truth. Alright guys, for the best updates on boxing news, moments, events, and actions, subscribe to Knockout Updates and turn on notifications to never miss out on quality content, and check out our other videos. Until next time, peace out.